Today, I'm going to show you guys how to make this stock dashboard in Google Sheets that will track all of your portfolio's earnings. Stick around to the end and I'll throw in a free template as well. To get started, we're going to use this blank spreadsheet here and we're going to start with our headers. So starting in cell A1, we're going to have a ticker, name of the stock, and then the 500-day chart. I'll explain in a little bit exactly what this means. We are going to have the price change, which means the daily change in price. We will have today's gain or loss. And this we're going to merge into column G because we'll have the dollar amount and the percentage amount. So we can merge the cells. And then starting in H, we will have the total gain or loss. Same thing, we'll merge this into column I because we will have the dollar amount and the percentage amount as well. And then we will have shares, so this will be the total number of shares we own. Current value, which is the current total value of all of our shares. And then we will have the cost basis, how much we purchased everything for, and then the per share amount. Now, one quick edit I want to make. If we go back to the 500-day chart, this is going to be an interactive feature. So 500 days, business days is roughly 2 years, where 250 business days is roughly a year. And you can edit this to make it 30 or a 10-day chart or a 5-day chart. We're just going to start with 500 days. But for the sake of the formula, we're going to back out of this for now and just type in 500. In doing this, our eventual formula will be able to pull the number 500, but we still want this header to say 500-day chart. So to do that, we're going to go into Format, Number, and then Custom Number Format. And then inside the custom number format, we will type in hashtag, and then in quotations, day, capital D, space, chart, and quotations, and we'll put a space between the hashtag and the quotations and hit apply. So now the input is just the number 500, but the result in the header is showing 500-day chart. For a couple points of formatting, the name column, if we right click and resize the column, we are going to make this 200, so double the size, hit OK. And then for the 500-day chart, we're going to resize this column to 120 and hit OK. And then for formatting the headers, I'm also going to highlight all of them and I'm going to center the text. I'm going to make them all bold. We can use a dark blue fill color and we can make the text color white. And now that we have our headers, we can move on to our first stock in row 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is double the height of row 2 by right-clicking row 2, resizing row to 42, and hit OK. And now we'll have some space for everything we need. So to start, we will use the ticker AAPL, which is Apple for reference. What I'm also going to do is click on all of row 2, and for the vertical alignment, I'm going to center it. So for the name of the stock, the official name, we don't have to type in Apple Incorporated or everything. The Google Finance function is going to help us out. So all we need to do is type in equals Google Finance, open our parentheses, and then we're going to click on A2, AAPL, comma, and then in quotations, write name and end our quotations. This means that the attribute we are selecting is the name given the ticker AAPL. Hit enter. Takes a second to load, and it tells us Apple Inc. is the name of the stock. If we change the ticker to MSFT, the name would then update to Microsoft, but we're going to go back to Apple for now. Next is a bit of a longer formula to get to the 500-day chart, but this is easily the coolest part of this video, so it's going to come in a few steps. So the first thing we're going to do is type in this formula, equals Google Finance, once again, open our parentheses, then we'll select A2, the ticker, add a comma. After this, in quotations, we will type in price as the attribute and end our quotations. Then we will add a comma and we're going to select the start date. At the end of this, we'll be given a mini chart showing the last 500 days of Apple's price. So that's why we have start dates and end dates here. So for the start date, we're going to type in workday, all one word, and then open a parentheses, type in today, open another parentheses and close it immediately, add a comma. For number of days, we're going to type in negative and then select cell C1, so it'll be 500. We can then close our parentheses, add one more comma, and for the end date, it will be today, open parentheses, close parentheses, and one more closed parentheses. So basically this formula is taking the price of Apple starting with today's date minus 500. That's the start date 500 days ago, and the end date being today, if that makes sense. And we'll hit enter. And now you see a big chart, which is going to go 500 days down, and the first day, 500 days ago, being October of 2023. We are about in September of 2025 when this is being recorded. So it's not quite 2 years, but we choose 500 as a round number. You can edit it to be 525, 530, whatever it is to get to 2 full years, but we're just doing 500 days for the sake of this video. And real quick, before we go to the next part of this formula, I'm just going to go back into it and add a $ before C and a $ before 1, so that when we drag this down in the future, that it will still return the 500. Hit enter. And now we can add the second part of this formula. At the end of it, we just want data to return in this cell C2, and for now, it's in a million different cells. So now we have to index this formula. So going back into our formula where it says equals, we'll type in index, open parentheses, and then everything else that's in there is good. So we're going to go to the end of the equation now, and we will add a comma, another comma, and the number 2, and close our parentheses, hit enter. So now we're only returning the closed prices of those 500 days and not the dates. So now we have one final step. If we go back into C2, we're going to go back to the beginning of the function, and we will type in spark line, so equals spark line, open parentheses, index Google Finance, and then go all the way to the end again, add a comma after the 2, and now you can see we're selecting options for our spark line. We are only going to do 2 different options, but both need to be inside of a squiggly bracket. So we will start that up, and then in quotations, chart type, end quotations, add a comma, quotations again, type in column, end those quotations. So our chart type will be a column chart. And then we will have to put in a semicolon, then in quotations, color. So the attribute we are now selecting is the color of the chart, end quotations, comma, and then in quotations, green. We want this to be a green column chart, end quotations, end the squiggly bracket, and then a final parentheses, and we will hit enter. So now after all of that, we have a 500-day chart of all of Apple's closing prices that looks something like this. And again, just to show you how everything changes when you change the ticker, we type in MSFT, it'll load for a second, and now we have Microsoft's 500-day chart. But again, we'll go back to Apple as we finish this row. So real quick, we can fill out the price and the change pretty easily. In price, we'll type in equals Google Finance, start our parentheses, click on the ticker again, add a comma, and the attribute in quotations will be the price, hit enter. So the current price of Apple is $232.14 per share. The change, which will be today's change, we will type in equals Google Finance, open our parentheses, click on the ticker again, add a comma, and then in quotations, just the word change. Hit enter, and you see the change per share in the last trading day was minus 42 cents per share. Next, I'm going to show you the other 2 manual entries. By the end of this, the only manual entries you'll need to make for every row is the ticker, the amount of shares you have, and what you purchased it at per share, which is column M. Everything else will be a formula that will fill in just by filling in those 3 columns. But for Apple, we're going to say that we purchased 5 shares, enter that in. And for per share, we're going to say $243.85 per share, which I believe when I looked at it was the price on January 1st of 2025, and that's where I got that number from. And quickly, for formatting's sake, everything from price over to per share, I'm going to center. For the amount of shares, I'm going to add a couple decimal points for fractional shares. And for per share, I'm going to format as currency, so it has the dollar sign. The current value, which is the current value of our shares times the current price, will be a simple formula. It will be equals D2 times J2. Hit enter. So the current value is 1160. Again, we're going to format this as currency. And for the cost basis, that's going to be equals M2 times J2, hit enter. So when we bought our 5 shares on January 1st, the cost was a little over 1200, and now it has gone down to 1160 total. So next we're going to fill in today's gain and loss and the total gain and loss, starting with today's gain and loss. And the first column, F, will be the dollar amount, and G will be the percentage amount. So for the dollar amount of today's gain or loss, we're going to do equals E2, which is today's change, times J2, the amount of shares. And I'm going to format both the change and today's gain and loss as a currency. For the percentage of today's gain or loss, we are going to type in equals Google Finance, open our parentheses, click on the ticker in A2, add a comma, and then in quotations, change PCT, change percentage. End our quotations, close our parentheses, and select divided by 100, hit enter. And we're also going to format this as a percentage. So today's gain is minus 0.18%. Next, we'll move on to the total gain or loss for the dollar amount. In column H, cell H2, we're going to type in equals, and then in parentheses, D2, the price, minus M2, what we bought it for, close our parentheses, and multiply that by J2, the amount of shares. Hit enter. So in total, we've lost $58.55. For the percentage loss in cell I2, we're going to type in equals, open our parentheses, and then select K2, the current value, minus L2, the cost basis, close our parentheses, and divide it by L2, again, the cost basis. Hit enter. We're going to then format that as a percentage. And you can see since we purchased our 5 shares on January 1st, we are down 4.8%. Now, basically everything you need is already done at this point, but what we're going to do is make this look a little bit better and add more rows for other stocks as well as the sum total. So first, I want to format the dollar amount and the percentage amount to look a little bit cleaner, I guess, to make the data easier to read. So we're going to select cell F2, and we're going to go to Format, Number, and then Custom Number Format. And then we're going to delete what's in there currently. And I'll kind of explain this as I go, but it might be easier at the end to see everything. But we're going to type in a bracket, normal bracket, and then color 50, which is green. Close that bracket, and then plus $, hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag, 0.00, semicolon. So you can already see that the positive format is displayed. The semicolon separates the positive format from the negative format. So if this number is positive and we have a gain, it will look something like this. And now we're going to format the negative version. So we are going to enter a bracket again, red, close the bracket. So the negative amount will be a red color, minus $, hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag, 0.00, semicolon. So there's the negative, how it shows up if it's negative. And we're going to add a dash if there is no gain. We can hit apply, and there it is. So we have a loss for today, so that's how it's formatted. I'm going to click on the paint format, and copy this over to the change amount, and then I will hit paint format again and copy this over to the total gain or loss amount. And now we're going to do basically the same thing for the percentage, but format as percentage rather than dollar amount. So we'll select G2, format, number, custom number format. We can delete what's in there. And similarly, we'll open our bracket, color 50, close our bracket, plus hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag 0.00%, semicolon. Then for the negative, bracket, red, close the bracket, minus hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag 0.00%, semicolon, and then a dash. We can hit apply. And now the percentage is formatted properly. Again, we'll click on this and paint the format over to I2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is select row 2, copy it, and paste it all the way down to row 14. And now we have enough rows to add whatever we need. You can add more rows if you have more stocks, less if you have less, but this seems like a good amount for now. And real quick, I'm going to cut to me entering all the tickers, share amounts, and per share amounts. Those are the only 3 columns we have to manually enter, and I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, and there we are. We have all of our tickers on the left, all the share amounts, and what we paid for them each per share. And you can see it's not all red anymore. We have some that have gained today, some that have lost today, some that have gained all time, some that have lost all time, and all of their varying 500-day charts. And just before I forget, just to show you again how the 500-day chart works, if we just type in the number 5, for example, it'll show you the last 5 days. And it's in the form of a column chart, so it doesn't look as good with only 5 days, but you get the idea. You see where it is over the last 5 days, and I'm just going to switch it back to 500 days because it looks a lot better, and you get a bigger picture of it. So I'm also going to add a total row in row 15. I'm going to resize that up to height 42. Hit enter, and not every single cell is going to get a total. Obviously, there's no total in the ticker name or chart, but especially for the totals of the gains and your losses, you're going to want to see all the totals there. So I'm going to start in column A and just type in the word total. And again, I'm going to bold this as well as center it. And then I'm also going to center everything from price to per share, just like we have all the above rows. So in column F, for today's gain or loss, all we have to do is equals sum, and it's already telling us what we need to do, F2 to F14, and our parentheses, and hit enter. We can copy that format over, but make sure it's bold. I guess we can bold it at the end. Column H, the total gain or loss, we'll type in equals sum, H2 to H14, and our parentheses, and then copy that format over. For column K, equals sum, parentheses, and then K2 to K14, hit enter. And then for cost basis, equals sum, parentheses, L2 to L14, hit enter. So basically everything we bought is $15,421, and the current value is $17,474 for a total gain of $2,052, whereas today it has decreased $161. Now for the percentages, they're going to take a little bit of a different formula. You can't just sum the percentages because you have to weight them properly. So for today's gain or loss percentage, we'll type in equals and then select K15, the total current value, minus, and then in parentheses, K15 again, minus, not equals, minus F15, and close your parentheses, close parentheses again, and I guess I forgot to open parentheses at the very beginning here. Then go back to the end of the formula, divided by, and in parentheses, K15 minus F15. Close your parentheses, hit enter, and we're going to format this as a percentage. So we'll format paint that over, and you can see today we're down 0.91% total. I didn't really explain that formula much, but basically what it's doing is it's taking today's price and backing out the loss to see what yesterday's price was, and then comparing the two to see how it changed. The total percentage change is going to be a little bit of an easier formula. All we have to do is type in equals, and then in parentheses, select K15 minus L15. It's already suggesting what we need to do here. And then close our parentheses, divided by L15. Hit enter, and then format paint as a percentage. So you can see that in total, since we bought everything, we are up 13.31%. And one more time, I'm going to bold this row. One more thing that I think would make this look a little bit nicer and make everything easier to read is if we highlighted all of the data from A2 down to M15 and then format, alternating colors. For styles, no header, no footer. We'll just leave the gray colors we have as default here and hit done. Now every row is an alternate color. Okay, and a couple finishing touches. In row 1, we're going to select view, freeze, one row. So now if you had a ton more stocks, you could scroll down and the header would stay in its spot. The last thing we're going to do is make some borders here. So if we highlight A2 all the way to M15 and then go into our border options for border style, we're going to select the second thickness here. And then for border color, we'll select light gray 1, which is 3 over from the end. And then we'll select outer borders as well as horizontal borders. So it separates everything a little bit better, but we also want some vertical borders as well. And this might look a little bit better before I do that if we go to view and then show. We're going to deselect grid lines. So there's no grid lines, it's just our borders. And we're going to select from Apple over to name, make some borders there. From 500-day chart over to price, make those borders. Change, today's change can get its own border. Today's gain and loss, since they're grouped together, can get a border. Total gain and loss, that can get a border. And then everything else goes together. And with that, that's basically it. I'm going to leave a template to this. So if you see the link, all you have to do is click on that spreadsheet and you won't be able to edit it. So you'll have to make your own copy first. And then once you get access to this, all you need to do is change the tickers, the shares, and the per share amount, which is your average cost per share. It should be your average amount. So say I bought 5 more shares of Apple today. I would put in 10 shares and then the average cost here to make everything work out. But I also hope a lot of you follow the video and make your own spreadsheet. That's the best way to learn everything, and then you're able to make alterations for whatever fits your needs best. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.